welcome everyone to another Collision Repair Open Dialogue webinar. I'm Allison Rogers. I am the editor of Collision Repair Magazine and the friendly face hosting these. We've got a panel today, so I'm going to be sitting back a little bit and letting these guys lead it, but I'll let everyone introduce themselves a little bit. We'll start with Loc down in the bottom there. Loc is from Cosmos Collision. Loc, tell us about your life with Cosmos Collision, your life in the industry, and what kind of expertise you're looking to bring here today.
Okay, so this is Loc. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, and I've been in the body shop industry for 38 years. I started up sweeping the floor, and I worked my way up. And now Cosmos, we specialize in luxury European car. And that's it.
Yeah, you go from sweeping the floors to running a luxury shop. I mean, it's a pretty cool story. I think a lot of people can relate to the sweeping the floors bit, but you get to work on some pretty nifty cars there at Cosmos. So we thank you for being here with us today and providing your expertise as a shop owner. And then Amit, would you like to give us a little explanation of your role and what you're going to bring here expertise-wise and kind of your experience as a CPA and accountant?
Sure. Thank you, Alison. Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here. I'm Amit Ashani, and we have our own firm, a CPA firm. So basically, we do the regular accounting and tax, but our main focus is on debt financing. So we arrange for financing for small and medium-sized businesses, depending on their need. And we work with all the banks, credit unions, BDC, private lenders, as well as leasing. We are leasing brokers too. So in the past, we've worked with some collision clients as well as some mechanical clients, but definitely we have worked with some franchisees and looking forward to hearing some new trends in the industry and exploring any synergies if we can help any small business clients.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being here today. I'm sure a lot of people are eager to ask you questions. We've got some shop owners in the chat. And Tim, you're a friendly face here with our Open Dialogue webinars. We know that you've been in the industry a long time as well. Let us know your expertise in Spanesi Americas and how you kind of climbed up in the industry.
Well, I've been in this industry now 46, going on 47 years. Started out as a technician at the age of 14. So you do the math and you figure out how old I am. But I've had positions from technician to shop manager to shop owner, to educator, then director of technical for a global company. I ran 2 other equipment companies before I started Spanesi Americas here for the Spanesi family. And we're now in our 10th year here in America. And we're growing every year and gaining more family, as we call our customers, as we bring on, people like Fix Auto Windsor, and we bring on Mr. Loc and his team, and we, work through the challenges that the shops are faced today. And a lot of the things that they're challenged with is on the financial side, and how do they make it work? So I think that's some of the things we're going to cover today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to our panel for being here. And as mentioned, we were supposed to have Dominic Iannetta on the call as well, but he's having some technical difficulties. So if he pops on at any point in the call and is able to work those out, then we will hand the mic over to him to do an introduction. And he's another collision center owner, so he'll provide also some expertise there from the Ontario side. But we've got Loc here, so we'll start with Loc. I just want to ask some questions about the general market right now. I mean, we know a lot of collision centers are seeing a lot of challenges, whether it be in parts, staffing. Those are really the 2 big ones we see. But what are you seeing in your facility? What are some of the biggest challenges that you see on a day-to-day basis that really affect your productivity?
Okay, for us now, the biggest challenge we have right now is supply chain, that mostly with parts. So we have vehicle come in, we book the car in, and then we order the parts, and then lots of them, they're not available, or some they will have no ETA. So we have the vehicle coming, but we cannot finish them. We cannot complete them. So that's the biggest challenge. The lots of work just pile up, and we cannot do much. Secondly, that will be the tech shortage. So that will happen with everyone. Right? And then labor rate. That's something that, but I'm lucky because a lot of insurance company now they willing to work with me. They understand the challenge. We have to invest a lot on equipment and training and technology in order to fix the car properly. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's not cheap either, is it?
Yeah, no, yeah. So, when we send the tech out for training, so they go for 4-day training. So 2 day, one at each end, it costs on average about 20,000 Canadian dollar
Wow.
to send tech down. Right? And then see how many certification we have, and especially with the luxury European. So that costs a lot of money, and we lost the tech on productivity. So yeah.
Well, it's a huge investment too, and I'm Tim. I'll hand the mic over to you after this. That's a huge investment when you can't guarantee that that person that you're spending $20,000 on to go send and train is going to stay with you for a long time. You don't know when, if they're just going to change their mind the next day. So, Tim, what's your experience based on what Loc's kind of said here? I know a lot of people are dealing with similar challenges in the industry. I mean, you've got the luxury connection, which is a bit unique compared to some other collision centers. But Tim, what are you seeing from a vast standpoint in North America?
Well, I think right now we're also seeing a labor shortage. And so I think that, to Mr. Loc's point, that brings us to the point to where we need to invest more in the employees that we have and bring them, up to another level. And when we look at the investment in training itself, the efficiencies that the technician is going to gain from the knowledge that they're going to learn is going to increase their productivity. So they may be able to move more vehicles through the shop faster, and also we're looking at a safer repair. But as we look at all costs, it's not just the cost of the labor, and it's not just the cost of the parts. We just finished our year end here in January for 2022, and I'm sure our accountant friend here can reaffirm this also. Across the board, I've seen a 20% increase on everything, whether it was our travel, whether it was, fuel costs or insurance costs or anything. Everything has skyrocketed, and the shops have not been able to recover that completely. And as Mr. Loc says, he's getting some insurance companies that are working with him, but he's working on a higher level of vehicles. He's working on the luxury class vehicles where the insurance rates may preclude that they can do that. So I think that's a big challenge too, is looking at, first of all, keeping the labor that we have currently and rewarding them for their good deeds, but also investing in them as we try to find new employees or bring new people into the industry.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Amit, from a financial perspective, as a CPA, and what's your experience from a small business perspective? What's kind of the scenario right now that you're hearing from people?
Like Tim rightly said, inflation has caused everything to cost maybe 10 to 20% more, at least just year over year. But to couple it with the rising interest rates. So most of the business loans, most of the small business owners would know their interest payments, their loan repayment has gone up substantially, and that's eating away most of the profit. So that's another, from a financial perspective, it's almost like a double whammy: rising inflation and rising interest rates.
Yeah. So as a small business owner, and from our perspective here on this webinar, collision repair owners, center owners, or just anyone in the industry, it's expensive. Things are not as they used to be. We're obviously dealing with a different market here. So whenever we're looking at, like Loc mentioned, the areas of inefficiency or, things we can do to brush up on and really get it back up to our production levels, back up to where they were pre-pandemic, or, even better, really address production level. Like Loc said, you can work on your relationships there. We've also got, you also mentioned the luxury advantage that Loc has as well here, but he mentioned equipment and training obviously is the big one. So Loc, when you're looking to invest into a new piece of equipment or a new piece of training, let us know the thought process behind there. Like, how do you come to the conclusion, like, okay, I need a piece of equipment. and start that process and getting everyone trained on it?
So the type of vehicle that I'm working on, it very the level of complexity is very high. So when we do an estimate, sometimes it will take me 6 to 8 hours because we have to consult the OEM protocol and procedure. So it takes longer. But in terms of efficiency, my personal experience is that when you invest on equipment and training, the payoff is enormous because it helps you to be more efficient. For example, most of my staff, they get training, so they know what they do and they know how we can efficiently repair the vehicle and safely repair. And then in terms of equipment, for example, we have the Spanesi Touch, so we use them every day to the point that I almost have to get another one because every time we have the vehicle in the shop, first thing we do, we scan them, and then next thing the tech, they will put the Spanesi Touch on, they will measure the car, so that we have a lot of answer right away. So those things there, you have to invest on equipment and training in order to be able to compete in today's market, because otherwise you just cannot fix the modern car. And yeah, I cannot emphasize enough on the training and equipment. For us here, every year now, average, we spend a minimum of 50,000 to about 130,000 a year on equipment. And training, we have about average about 24 days of training a year. So that everything they add up. So, and yeah.
How do you, so I know Tim, you can kind of weigh in on this as well, but I mean, it's one thing to get the training, but how do you market that training and make sure that that's actually making you money?
Well, I think one of the things you have to look at when you're looking at the training is, first of all, I need to be able to facilitate the repairs faster so that I can have some more throughput. In order to beat these inflation numbers that we have to do more work. So we're going to need to move more vehicles through the shop. So that's done with the efficiencies. And as Mr. Loc pointed out, every vehicle that comes in his facility is measured with a measuring system prior to the repair process. And what he's actually doing there is improving his efficiencies because he's finding more damage up front. And he's being able to bill out more damage up front. And he has a better viewpoint of the vehicle itself, and even right down to what technician has to be able to work on the repair, because in our instances, we find when we take a measuring system into a shop, 6 out of 10 cars that we measure, we're going to find additional damage. That's not normally noted from, a set of eyes that's, raises a hood and takes a look at something. So it's key to be able to measure the vehicle, but not just measure the vehicle. You need to measure your processes and make sure your processes are working right too. But just that implementation of the measuring up front, the return that you're going to get out of that measuring system, as Mr. Loc says, he's ready to order another one from me.
Yeah. Because with a modern vehicle, when you look at a car, just eyeball 101, no longer apply, because modern vehicles, you have, for example, a new Audi, they tolerate 100%, and we only have 2 millimeters tolerance on the top of the strut tower. So you use the measurement cam, it doesn't work, and you look at it, it's very deceiving. So the only way to do it is put the 3D measurement on.
Exactly.
Very important.
And you were mentioning, Loc, when you're using, you mentioned the Spanesi Touch in specific, you're using that tool every single day. and I know, Tim, here, I'll pull up some of the data you gave me here, but you broke down kind of some of the, whoops, see if I can share my screen here, but you broke down some of the information about the price breakdown for different tools. Sorry, I have to allow Zoom to view my slides here. So, slide preferences, sorry. We're just full of technical difficulties today. Bear with us for a second. I could sing
Well,
a song.
I threw a presentation in the middle you didn't expect. That's why. But to Mr. Locke's point, if you take a look at the efficiencies that you have and then the investment that you're making, I think a lot of times what I see is when we look at, as you see on the screen, if we're going to turn around and we're going to do some type of a lease, we're going to turn around and we look at basically a typical lease is going to be about 60 months. So that's 5 working days a week. That's 8 hours a day. So it's about 40 hours a work week. So for example, if we take and we lease $26,000, a $26,000 piece of equipment, we're looking at it's costing us about $27 a day. And you divide that into 8 hours, that's only $3.37 an hour of operation. And if you work the math up through that, you can find out, spend $100,000 over that same period of time, it's only really costing me $12.75. And last time I checked, that's about a Tim Hortons trip for me. So
Pretty much just a lunch now at this point, but
yeah, it's not a big investment, but when you turn around and you look at the return of what you're going to get, it's not just return on investment. Too often, some of the financial people are just looking at the standard depreciation of the tool and the equipment, and they're not taking into consideration of what that tool is actually producing. And that's how we call it return on time of investment. And if you go to the next slide, then you'll see what is really a half hour worth. And if we take that half hour and we go to the next, and you see that if I turn around, if you go to the next slide, and I'm only using a half hour. So on the right-hand side, you can do your own math. But if you did 10 vehicles per week and you added 30 minutes to each one of those, that's an extra 5 hours per week. And I don't know what your door rate is. You're going to have to put that in on your side.
Yeah.
But if we take the average at $50, you're increasing your income $250 a week. That's an annual increase of $13,000. But think about that. If I add measuring to the equation up front, I'm going to typically find about 4 or 5 hours more of work, and then I need to add the refinish time that's going to be added and all the supplemental things that go along with finding that extra damage. So this annual increase you see here at 13,000 is nothing because I'm only doing that at a half hour. And when we see our average of increase of between 6 and 10 hours, you take that annual number there of 13,000, it's going to be more like 130,000 when you really look at it. So at the same point, I'm looking at that tool's I'm spending $100,000 and it's only costing me $12.37 or whatever it is per hour. There's a substantial amount of money sitting there that could be charged out on each job that measuring system is just going to pay for itself.
Yes, I totally agree on that one. Yes.
It's for some shop owners that might be looking at this and say, okay, well, how do I guarantee that we're doing like Loc's doing, using that tool all the time, using it every day? What are some tips or advantages you think you guys can provide there, or some strategies to kind of make sure that you are using the tool to its full ability? Because I was just at a conference this past weekend, and we know that people there were saying the same thing. You know, the worst thing is when you buy a tool and it sits in the corner because no staff want to touch it because it's, quote, a piece of crap. But that's what they were saying at the conference. I know it's the worst for shop owners. So Tim, how do you avoid that?
Well, I think one of the things is you have to have like a, first of all, policies and procedures set in stone in your facility of the processes that are going to be done throughout the repair, and they're done consistently. But secondly, it's having your team on your side to know why we're doing what we're doing. And third, I'm looking at, how would you call it? But when we sell a piece of equipment or we do training, we're trying to show them how to get, their full value out of that piece of equipment. We're showing them how to be able to diagnose suspension. We're showing them how to be able to do different things, that they can use the tool more than they typically would. I think from the aspect of Mr. Loc's facility, for instance, I think you find that they're seeing the value because they are getting an increase, because they're finding more, more damage, and the repairs are also better, because not only is it going to help you to be able to diagnose, but I'm going to use it throughout the repair when I'm doing the pulling to navigate, to make sure I put it back to spec. And then from the quality control standpoint at the end, I now have the printout that shows, yes, we did put it back to specification. As Mr. Loc said, some of the vehicles getting down way below a millimeter in tolerance now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm finding those small places where you can make more with less, I guess, technically, with the same tools, I guess, really what you have. Okay, cool. So that's interesting. I mean, if anyone, I'm going to enter the screen sharing, excuse me. Now, if anyone was looking to get a copy of this breakdown or slides, I'm sure Tim would be more than happy if we can send it to you. Just email myself or reach out to the magazine and we can send it to you, or Tim, if you'd like to learn more. So we'll send you anyone this breakdown if you'd like it. Moving on, we'll turn over to our financial expert here. But Amit, working with small businesses and working with debt, what are some of the strategies or opportunities that are available to these small businesses regarding equipment write-offs or getting things covered or reduced? Because I think a lot of people don't really realize there are options for them.
Correct. And to add to the further point that Loc and Tim were discussing, there's also a concept of opportunity cost. By not having the right tool, you're leaving money on the table. So you don't want to do that. So yeah, as for the options in, so mainly I'm Canada specific. So Canada, there are different options, like the government guarantees some of the loans for new startups. Then there's an option of lease financing as compared to owning the equipment outright. So lease financing can give you some tax advantages, as well as there's not a lot of down payment required as compared to owning an equipment. At the end of the lease term, usually on a $10 or $100 on a transfer of $10, you own the equipment. So it's actually lease to own kind of an arrangement, and you can write off the HST throughout the 60 months in the example that Tim gave. So that kind of helps. That's added advantage for a client. So yeah, and then there are different. So I heard some issues about supply chain management. So BDCs, which is backed by the Canadian government, realizes this, and then right now there are special loans at special interest rates, much lower interest rates for industries which are facing the supply chain issues. So yeah, everything depends on the industry, the scenario a particular business is, and definitely there are various options available out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially in this industry where a lot of people's complaints are, I don't want to buy a tool and have it be, obsolete or outdated in 5 years from now. That these financing option is attractive. But Tim, what's kind of your experience? I mean, you're in the American market, of course, but what kind of options do you always kind of suggest to look for people that might be a little bit hesitant to spend the money on a tool?
Well, and one of the first things I try to talk when I'm talking with shop managers and shop owners is the fact that you don't pay your employees 5 years in advance. Mm-hmm. So why would you pay for your equipment 5 years in advance? You want to pay for that equipment as you're using and making money with it. And in today's day and age, when we start to look at, the situation that we have with the part shortages and things of that nature, you may need more reserves today in the background. So why not use the bank's money when it comes to buying that piece of equipment instead of your own money? Because now I may need to shift some of that I normally would have spent for equipment out into reserves to be able to reserve extra parts, maybe have to pay a little bit extra to a vendor to be able to be, on their priority list of delivery of parts. So I think you have to look at some of the cost shifting things, but I see a lot of people that when they see the cost of a piece of equipment, again, as I already showed, you know, we break it down to the hour of it being used so that it can be billed back that way, instead of turning around and looking at, okay, my lease payment is, let's say, $650 a month or $750 a month or whatever it is. I'm looking at how I'm getting that return. I'm not looking at what I'm spending. I'm looking at what my income is from that particular.
Sorry, we have some general talking in the background. I think Loc might just be hearing
Closest
some.
hospital, well, Campbell
Oh,
Otherwise, it's the closest hospital.
maybe. Oh no, sorry, that's just someone on our end.
Transport is already booked.
Sorry about that, everyone. One of our production agents is out in the field right now. All right, so yeah, I totally agree.
So I'm not looking at what it's costing me per month. I'm looking at what I'm getting in income per month. And if you take that measuring system and you just break it down from the cost down to the hour, you're going to find that the money in return is going to be more than the investment 100% of the time.
Yeah. Can I chip in?
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
And not to mention that my technician is going to be more efficient. The repair is going to be a better repair because they're following the guidelines, they're using the tools, and I'm sure Mr. Loc could attest to that.
Yeah. So let's say in terms of equipment, I will tell everyone my personal experience with the just a small sample on the 3D, the touch. Insurance company now, they want to make sure that we have a proper estimate and we repair the car price. So now they willing to pay, we charge an hour to do the measurement. So my labor rate is $100. So every car we work on, the insurance they will pay. So we put the machine on, we measure. So we build 1 hour right there. And then with that a piece of equipment, just like Tim said, we can find out if the structure have seeped, damage, or undercarriage. So we have better and more accurate estimate. And that will be a bigger business opportunity. So that is just a no-brainer for me. And then just like we buy a machine, we buy a welder. After 3 or 4 years, then will be obsolete because new piece come in. And now if we get the finance from the bank, then we get tied up with the capital. So now if we lease them, we lease the piece of equipment, then the monthly cost to finance them is very low, very easy to swallow, but will help us to increase our business opportunity and more profits. So that one there, I think everyone should go that route.
I want to just ask a question on a point you made here. I mean, you said you have a great relationship with insurance partners. A lot of people aren't as lucky in the industry to have that. We won't touch on that. But getting insurance on board, or getting them to understand that, you know, things like 3D measuring or the pre and post scans that you're doing are something that you should be paid for. A lot of people might struggle with that. So how do you prove your education? Either Tim or Loc, you can either chip in here. But how do you prove your education to a partner like that to make sure that you're getting the utmost of your investment?
Oh, for us, because with the insurance, they will know that the vehicle go to the body shop and they don't have the proper equipment and proper training. So the repair will not come out the way it was. And they could not bring the car back to a 5-star crash rating. So now for me here, to my certification, when we measure a car, we take picture with our equipment. And when we scan the car, we take picture. And then when we put the vehicle on the Spanesi machine, we take a lot of photos detailed one. So we can show the insurance and we show the customer so they know that the vehicle will repair right. And for the insurance partner, they want to make sure that at the business institution, they want to make sure that the customer will renew their policy with them. So they want to make sure that the customer happy. And one way to do that, they will let us fix the car right.
Absolutely, but making sure they're on the same page, really.
Yes. Yeah.
Tim, any comments to that point?
Yeah, and if you look at when we're doing training, our training department makes sure that even from the in-shop training process, we have a procedure set that we follow of how we train each person. And then we have training at our training facilities throughout the US and Canada. Matter of fact, we just launched a new one with the Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche up in the Toronto market. We're going to start using that facility up there, and we're hoping to expand both left and right in Canada to be able to have more locations like that. But we have training throughout the month here in our location that any of our people can come to. And a lot of our training is not just on how to be able to use the equipment. We're trying to help them to learn their processes. We're trying to help them improve their throughput, improve how their technicians are working in the shop, and being able to function to be able to do the proper repair. So it's more than just training on a piece of equipment.
Absolutely. And to your point, kind of just to mention, I know that Loc was saying it before earlier, that a lot of training costs being in Canada is travel, because there's not a lot of opportunity to do a lot of the OEM training up here. We're lucky now in the GTA to have that Volkswagen and Canadian Welding Bureau collaboration that they've launched for training. But Amit, in terms of training, I don't know if you can answer this or help with clarify things, but for companies that are looking to get training, subsidized or covered at least, does it apply to anywhere in North America, or would that only be for opportunities in Canada?
No, if it's applicable, it would be applicable all over North America. So that's a good thing. But at the same time, programs that even the CRA or the government of Canada introduces. So for example, right now there's a digital adoption plan wherein clients can get $50,000 at 0% interest rate. Not only that, on top of that, they get to hire 2 trainees and their salaries are covered up to a max of $7,000. So there are government programs also. So it's always best to check with your accountants to see if any new grants are available for the same.
Absolutely. So always make sure you're checking with that information and finding out the best opportunities. I know that I was just at, I actually see Scott from SAS Polytech, going to give you guys a shout out here, but I was just at a session in Saskatchewan over the past weekend, and they were introducing one of their training programs clarifying one of their training programs. And they also told the audience that there's a percentage that can get covered by the government. And a lot of people in the audience were surprised to hear that. So I think it's really important that you're doing their research on that so you don't miss out on opportunities, because the courses like the one that Scott was explaining the other day, the ones that Tim is explaining here now, and the ones that Loc embarks on, they are all, there's likely a way that you can get some of that covered, or at the very least, it's always going to benefit your business, as we've broken down here before. So I want to remind everyone here that our Q&A is open as well. If there's any questions that you'd like to ask the panelists here, we'll also be able to reach out to us after if you ever want to ask them any questions. But I'll move on to the next question here now. We're almost at the end of our list here, so be sure to pipe up in the chat if you don't want the conversation to end yet. But I wanted to go back to Tim. When you're going into shops, I know that a lot of the time it's like your first meeting, you walk in there and you kind of see the state to do kind of a status check of the facility. So what do you kind of look for when you first go in and find the areas of improvement? So some people can kind of, put on the Tim glasses and do their own kind of check at their shop and perhaps contact you for some assistance.
Well, I think most shop managers or owners, when they know where their bottleneck is, or they know where their problem child is, or problem area of what they need to work on. But we like to go in and see, we want to, if you want to call it, peel back that orange. We want to be able to take a look at the whole business, including sometimes we'll even ask to see a P&L. You can take a simple P&L and be able to see where someone's bleeding real quick. And, you know, I mean, I've done it here within our own business to figure out where we could have a, you know, a cost savings, or where if we implemented a procedure, things would move smoother. A lot of what I see when we walk in facilities is there's a lot of, I don't want to call it waste in labor, but it is a waste, because there's redos that are being done, or excessive buffing or something like that, because of maybe they're not taking very good care of their spray booth, or maybe that piece of equipment is a little bit old and needs to be replaced. Maybe they need a little bit better technology. Maybe they need a little bit better preparation before the vehicle goes in the booth. So we try to analyze everything that they do, but it starts at the intake of the vehicle. If we're not intaking that vehicle correctly, noting what the previous damage that may have been on it before it was in an accident, and if we're not documenting the information correctly and working with our OEM partners to make sure that we have the right documentation for the repair, we're not going to be efficient. So there's many different ways of being able to analyze the business, but I think first you have to look at how you're intaking the vehicle. You also need to look at the interaction that you have with your customer. One of the first things I ask my own customers is, how do you want me to contact you? Maybe they want a phone call. Maybe they don't want an email. Maybe they want a text. I have several customers that would prefer to talk in text, because they're doing multitasking at the same time instead of taking the time for a phone call. Other people, they want to see it in an email so they can sit and analyze it for a little bit of time. So the whole experience is also taking a look at, you need to look at your labor force. Your labor force is going to dictate what you need for equipment. Sometimes we look at today's labor force being an older, aging labor force. So we may need to have more lifts in the building, so that we're getting the vehicles off the ground for the repair, instead of someone have to bend over all day long or be down on their hands and knees. Those are the types of things we look at.
Absolutely, gotcha. Yeah, I think to the point of a lot of people skip the economical point, and making sure things are, you know, equipped for the age group that's working with you, and you don't want to lose your techs too young, because we already know, as we talked about before, we're in a labor shortage. All right, so like I said, we're almost at the end of our questions here. So if anyone has any questions for the panel, let us know in the chat. But I wanted to check back with Amit here. There might be some people in the industry, I know there's, I don't know anyone personally, I'm not going to name names or anything, but some people might be thinking that a lot of this financial stuff they can do themselves. Can you explain why that's probably not the best course of action? I mean, we've kind of covered you're leaving money on the table, but could you explain further?
Sure, there's one portion that you're leaving money on the table. Maybe you're not efficiently doing it yourself. On the other end, it's how insurance is sold to me. Maybe all this that I know it's expensive. I know it. Hopefully, you never need to use it. But if at all you were if you were to get into an accident, that's the time when you need insurance. So at the same time, you want to be on the right side of CRA. You don't want to do some mumbo jumbo on your own and think that it will fly under the radar. You want to be on the right side of CRA, and hopefully you never want to get audited. So similar response to I would say for this industry.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think a lot of us know, especially in this industry, where I call it the L word on these webinars. It always seems to come up, but liability, we don't want to be in that position, and it's just kind of an extra support to make sure that you're not only not leaving money on the table, you're saving money, and then you have all your bases covered. So if you have any questions about that, be sure to reach out to us, and we will connect you with the right people to answer your questions, like Amit here. All right, so we're almost at the end here, like I mentioned, but Tim, Loc, Amit, anything else you want to contribute to our audience today here? We've still got about 35 people on the line, but like mentioned, if anyone has any further questions, just reach out and we can get back to you.
I think one of the things I want to say is that most business managers, business owners are busy trying to keep their parts coming in the door. They want to keep the work coming in the door. So when it comes to the accounting, yeah, that really needs to be taken care of by a specialist to be able to take care of that. And the other thing to remember is that the accountant is not just doing your books and going over everything. They're also looking as another set of eyes, and they would be able to see very quickly where maybe some better expenditures could be done instead of what typically someone would want to do. So it's a good thing when you're looking at equipment to also be able to consult them. One of the things I do find is it's always at the year end is when people turn around and start to spend more money on equipment because they're starting to see their profit margin. I think that accountants would be better served if they try to forecast that for their customer so that they could turn around and have the equipment sooner than later. And that take a little weight off of our shoulders of having to deliver everything in December. But you could tell from your P&L where you're going to be by the end of a second quarter to know exactly you're halfway there and where to be able to make an investment if investment is necessary. The other thing I would say is if you have equipment sitting in the corner and it's not being used, it's 99% of the time it's a training issue. Or you didn't keep a subscription up to date or something like that. Those are all investments too that you have to be able to invest in order to get any return out of that piece of equipment. Because you can guarantee if you have a $30,000 measuring system sitting in the corner, it's like a garbage can over there that just keeps overflowing. It's not helping you, it's hurting you.
That's an expensive garbage can.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree there, Tim. I think a lot of people are missing a lot of opportunities there, especially with their December deliveries, as you're mentioning. Like, you guys, not only does it put stress on the rest of the industry around the holidays, guys, but imagine how much more money you could have left. I mean, how much money you did leave on the table and how much more you could do if you looked at that earlier, like Tim saying, you knew your P&L at the beginning of the year, or pretty relatively soon into the year, you can figure things out. And let's not leave it to the last minute. So, and you make more money and you'll be happier and your financial books will be happier. And it's a win-win-win-win.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all our questions here today. And as I mentioned before, if there's anyone that wants to reach out afterwards, just reach out to the magazine and we can connect you with the proper source. But thank you so much to Tim, Amit, and Loc all today for being part of this panel. Shout out to Dominic too for his help with the notes preparation and everything like that. He did play a part in the preparation of this webinar. He just wasn't able to join us. But thank you to you guys today. Really appreciate your expertise on the panel.
Yeah.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Yeah, of course. So everyone have a great day. Thanks for tuning into Open Dialogue webinar and be sure to tune into our next one next month. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Bye.